Hi again, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Inside Furman Athletics. I am Dan Scott, the voice of the Paladins. Good to have you with us, as always. Hope that you had a great weekend. As usual, we are recording this on Tuesday morning. Today is February the 7th. Men, you've got exactly 1 week to get ready for Valentine's Day. Don't say that you were not warned. Robert Gary is our guest. He is the head coach, of course, of the cross-country track and field teams here at Furman, who have had, ho-hum, another fantastic year so far. Good to see you, man. How you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the reminder about Valentine's Day.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you have a lady who, if I didn't remind you, she would probably remind you, too.
Yep, she'll inform me about what would make a great gift, so it's somewhat easy.
At least that takes the pressure off, right?
Yep, absolutely.
You know, normally when I see you, you're dressed like a runner, but got a little head coaches meeting today, so
yep,
dressed to impress, right?
Head coaches meeting, talking to the men's basketball program, so this is quite a day. I almost thought about shaving, but it's not that huge.
Can't go that far.
No.
I obviously said jokingly, ho-hum, another great year. I mean, it's just there's a standard that has been set with your program, and you continue to not just meet but exceed your own standard going back to the fall. Now 10 straight cross-country championships for the men and the women, and really, pun intended, no slowing down in sight.
Yeah, no, we're going good. The fall was a little bit disappointing just in that we didn't, make the national meet with both teams, but we had 2 people going in All-American certificates, so that was nice. And I think we've already seen a little bit of a redemption tour as far as indoor track goes, missing even a couple of our very best, but we're doing a real good job, and we kind of always measure ourselves up nationally and doing a good job in those events, and excited. We're 4 weeks out from the conference meet, and this upcoming weekend's a real big weekend that we've talked about for a while now.
Yeah, let's talk about this weekend, Washington, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll send 9 athletes out to Washington, and they got some pretty tough entry standards, but it's always a tremendous race. You really stack up, see where you stack up nationally, and so targeting the 3K and 5K events there, and then the following week we'll kind of hit the 8 and the mile. But anyone who's not going to Huskies, going over to Liberty, they've got a beautiful facility, and really this is our last chance to really see what we have as far as a conference meet goes, and where we can kind of land on the national lists.
So it's good to have that kind of depth, though, where you can send people to 2 different places and make sure that everybody is getting a chance to compete, to give you all of the information you need to make those roster decisions when it gets time for the conference meet, right?
Yeah, and it's also, we want to create as many opportunities as possible. We do the same thing during the cross-country season. We don't want freshmen, sophomores, or people that are a little bit behind to not have racing opportunities. And so I think we do a real good job with our staff, and we have kind of a budget to be able to do a couple different things on given weekends, depending on where a kid is developmentally.
And that's one thing, obviously, budget giving that has been in the news here at Furman for a while because of the big gift that was just given towards the Timmons Arena renovation project that has now been made public. It's been going on behind the scenes for a while, but your program has been blessed to be extremely well supported financially, and you can always be supported better. I know that, but it's giving you opportunities to compete like you are a Power 5 school. And to a certain degree, would that be accurate?
Yeah, I think there's probably not we can't afford the waste that I see probably at some Power 5 schools, but I don't feel like there's ever a ceiling over anyone's head, in our program. You could always use more scholarship money, but when it comes time for a kid to be here, we want to try to make sure that as they develop, there's no ceiling over their head about what we can provide and when we can provide it. So in that regard, I think we're very well established, along with, we kind of have that, the foundational roots of just having a great endowment that was started before, I even got here, 2005, with some of the, the contributions of the Bork Foundation and some of the gifts along the way. Obviously, he's obviously a huge part of, our donor and what we can do as a program. And I think we're built on a real sturdy foundation. I think, there's always going to be at a lot of schools, that don't turn a profit with athletics, which is the vast majority of them, even Power 5. You got to do some things like that. And I think Furman is, really well positioned, and all the different sports have different avenues with which to supplement that to really provide that.
So to me, then, in a sense, that makes what your program has done and continues to do even that much more impressive, because given the financial stability that you have, there could be a tendency, and we have all seen this, I think, in life, whether it's inside athletics or out, there could be a tendency to get complacent. It seems to be more of a motivation for you to say, yeah, we've got this base, but let's continue to get better everywhere, whether it's with the runners, whether it's with the financial support, whether it's nutrition, whatever it is. It seems to have been a motivation.
Yeah, I think it's a badge of honor. I certainly am proud, and I know the kids on the team. We look at it as a recruiting tool, whereby they're going to receive the education and the personalized individual attention of a small, liberal private arts school. But they're also going to have, this access to, meets, competition, and everything to be as good, good a runner as possible. So we try very hard to never take that for granted. We know how fortunate we are to be in this small school intimacy, but with big school resources.
And nothing is cheap. Travel on down to nutrition, is it?
No. And I mean, we've always been rather strategic as far as when we do things. And, Chris Bork, head of the, Don't Bork Foundation, is very good at kind of asking questions too. Never just, here's some money, go for it. It's, we say, hey, this is really important to the program now. This is important later. So it's been fun trying to build over the last decade, and we look forward to the next decade.
Well, as we said, 10 straight Southern Conference championships and a national presence with this program, and things continuing to move forward. Let's kind of zero in on some things that have happened here recently, and trying to be creative on the left hand side rail there. A personal best party at the Camel City Elite. All 6 runners ran their personal best time. Yeah.
I love these smaller races that we go and do. I mean, talk about trying to mirror the academic side of things at Furman. Small classes, but I like when we get into a van with a third of the team and we head out some places. And this weekend's a great example. We kind of split the team, and then everybody's kind of on the focus and on the highlight. And it's always nice at our Monday team meetings to go through, and when you can say that everybody got on the van, PR'd, is a really great thing. I think it's a good testimony to the staff and also to these kids that take advantage of these kind of opportunities when we head out and do it. But some really nice national level stuff right now. I think in the mile 3 and the 5K, we're ranked in the top 20 in all 3 events. Nationally, they keep track of your top 4 in every event. So this weekend was a big one, and we really hope that this upcoming weekend will really stamp it and maybe even be closer to the top 10 for all those.
Carson Williams ran a sub-4 mile for the first time. What was his reaction? What was his coach's reaction?
Well, I was excited. I think anytime you can break 4, it's great. I think it was the 22nd athlete I've coached to break 4, but I really loved how he did it. Number one, they wouldn't let him into the fast heat, even though he ended up running the fastest time of the whole day. So, he had a little chip on his shoulder there. But I also love that Nick Epstein, one of his teammates, is the guy who rabbited him. So those 2 guys just got out there in a slower section. They were completely by themselves, and it was really, really exciting. And anytime you see these guys, break 4 for the first time, Carson was really excited, and then next weekend he PR'd in the 3K, and we're hoping that this weekend he's going to PR in the 5K.
So how does that work? If he ran the fastest time, how did he not get to run in the fastest heat?
Just seed times. I think sometimes coaches, I probably should have done a better job of lying, about what he was capable of doing. I certainly felt that he was, ready to break 4.
So were you sandbagging? Was that what it was?
Yeah, or just being too honest. I need to start faking it. So he just hadn't run a mile. He'd run a 1,500 at 3:43, and obviously he was an All-American last year in the steeplechase. But it didn't work out, and I was a little disappointed. But I think we both, said, hey, we said we were going to go for it. Let's still go for it. And Nick Epstein, his teammate, really, really stepped up for him. Without Nick, I don't think he'd have been able to do it. So he got him through 1,000 meters, and Carson just hammered away for the last 600. It was a really special moment for the program.
In pool, they call you a hustler.
yeah. Well, I was trying not to be, but I tried to warn him.
That's fantastic. Congratulations to Carson. How many athletes here at Furman now does that make that you've coached that's run under a 4-minute mile?
I think we've had 5 or 6 collegiates, and then when we had our Furman Elite group, there were obviously several that had done it and then really kind of jumped probably pretty far past that low 350 miles and stuff too. So we've had a good history of it. It's an event that I've always loved, and I'm looking forward to adding a couple more from this outdoor season.
It's not been that long ago in the grand scheme of things. If you look at time, that just the thought of running a sub 4-minute mile was so far out there that nobody thought it could be done until finally it was done.
Yeah, well, I've hated listening to the guys that have done it here because I was never able to do it as an athlete. So, you always try to tease it down so that they run well, but never beating your PRs. But even last weekend, both of them ran faster than I ever have. So, hopefully they're on a good trajectory to make an Olympic team and, do well and stuff. So.
Robert Gary knows what it's like to be on an Olympic team. He is the cross-country track and field coach here at Furman. On this week's edition of Inside Furman Athletics, you also have a pair of SoCon Athletes of the Month in Megan Marvin and Matthew Smith, who've had really good months of January.
Yeah, they've had wonderful months. Both of them have gotten Athlete of the Week, I think, every week, and well deserved. Matthew's another person that I think the next time he gets out there, he's going to break 4 for the first time. He's run 4:02. Also ran a 1:48 half mile to break our long-standing, indoor Furman record. And Megan's been an absolute killer. She probably missed the national meet by a second or two this last weekend, but she's PR'd every single weekend going forward. We're going to give her this weekend off, and then probably make another real good crack at the 800, making the NC2A meet. But Megan also was an All-American last year, has come so far, and I know she hates to talk about it because it's not her favorite thing, but she's also come a very, very far way, in cross country. And, for a half miler to run cross country, especially in our program, and be a consistent scorer, and I think she does it, about 95% for the team and about 5% for the love of running. So we're really, really grateful for her and how she's doing, and very excited to see what she can do this season.
Are all of the milers that have broken the 4-minute mile, are they all indoor?
Yeah, just because it's run more. We've had obviously people that run faster than 3:43 as an equivalent, outdoors in the 1500. But outdoors they just run the 1500, so you only get a couple cracks at that full mile or whatever. So we've had people do equivalent, but we don't count it until you actually break 4.
So it's something that you can mark on the calendar, and these athletes can start gearing up towards that. This is my opportunity. If I've been close, this is the chance.
Absolutely, yeah, and I love it too because we've had great success of doing it with when we had Furman Elite kind of running, or other teammates. Rabbiting has been terrific for us, particularly at some of these early season meets that aren't as competitive. But we put it on the calendar, and these guys really, really circle it, and we've really punched through a bunch. In fact, I think if Matt Smith hadn't been in the fast heat, had been in Carson's heat, I think he would have done it as well. So I know he's hungry to get another crack at it.
So for someone who may not know, when you say rabbiting, explain that for the layperson.
Just kind of tough to get out there and go completely by yourself. Last year at the indoor championships, Cameron Ponder was able to do it, but he's a pretty seasoned athlete. NC2A All-American cross country, had broken 4, a dozen times probably. And sometimes for a new guy, it just kind of helps to have someone kind of leading exactly 30s on a 200-meter track and taking some of the, brunt of pacing and not having to, do everything completely by yourself. You can either get this in a race kind of naturally, you got a bunch of great runners running, or sometimes if the race isn't, quite good enough, someone will put a rabbit out there just to kind of get the pace going in hopes of a really good time. So.
Robert Gary with us, cross-country track and field coach here at Furman. So you've got the events this weekend, the Husky Classic, the Darius Dixon Memorial. You're going to be splitting your team, and then we're looking at the SoCon Championships, February 25th and 26th, the NCAA Indoors in Albuquerque, March 10th and 11th. And then you turn the page and right to the outdoor season.
Yeah, we're pretty much every 2 weeks, until a kid is done, and we're hoping that a lot. And, obviously at the NC2A Outdoor Championships, and even a couple people that are another month beyond that, the USATF Championships, for, kind of more for post-collegiates, but some collegians make it. And that's something that's also kind of on everybody's radar. So we're every 2 weeks, pretty solid going forward, and nothing but high-level stuff. We take a little bit of a break after the SoCon meet because we got 3 or 4 weeks before we really hit it and go. But once we get going, we get cracking, and people don't stop. So we really do try to lowball a little bit indoors. That's why I've been terrifically proud of the team for still being kind of a top 20 track program and moving towards probably a top 10 one as far as at least the distance events go.
We talk about really any sport in college athletics. There's no off season now, but for your sport, for instance, you started your first meet was back on September the 2nd. And if you get someone who goes all the way to the USATF Outdoor Championships in Eugene, Oregon, that's June 22nd through June 25th. So if somebody makes that and is coming back here next year, they're going to have, quote unquote, 2 months of an off season, basically.
Yeah, and even then, that's probably their biggest mileage of building up towards cross country on their own, wherever
Right.
they might be if they're not staying in town. But yeah, we're pretty in season. We provide some ebb and flow with winter break, and spring break. But other than those, we're hitting it and building, and we just got to do a good job of managing, managing athletes and kind of targeting stuff. So we're a big cross country, big outdoor, but I've been really encouraged by where we've been at indoors.
Yeah, I say 2 months. Actually, they would have the month of July because you'd be back here on campus right around the 1st of August and starting your training leading up to another September. So it's like anything else in the world of college athletics. It has become year-round, whether it's actual year-round competition or whether it's what you do in the off-season to prepare for your season, if you're football or basketball or whatever. So one of the big topics, and I think justifiably so, in collegiate athletics, really in the world today, it is mental health. How do you factor that in to this fact that your calendar literally can be year-round? You talk about certain breaks here. Is that a conscious decision to make sure that you're not just dealing with the kids' physical health and growth, but also the mental aspect of it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's part of what Furman offers, obviously on the other side of campus, academically, we got to do the same things athletically. I think we got to really do a good job of meeting with kids individually, which we take the time to do. One of the reasons why we want to have a real small roster is so we can meet with each kid each week, carve out goals, see what they are. And a lot of times, especially with kind of the, driven kids that we get, we need to step in more often than not always a kick in the butt, but more of a, trying to hold them back a little bit. Hey, let's try to just run 2 or 3 indoor races. Let's try to build towards outdoor. We have to create some breaks for them, because we know that when they're in full boot, it's not like these kids take academics off. A lot of them are in, fraternity, sorority, FCA, tons of different things, very big in SAC. They want to go down and support the other sports. It's a year round as far as lots of things to do. And we just got to create some ebb and flow for them. I think we've done a real good job of, number one, transitioning, freshmen to transition in. We've been really big supportive of, the Furman Advantage. So they get a semester off to kind of study abroad and kind of, take a little bit of a break or whatever and get away from it. And we've done that even with our very best athletes. So we try to provide that small school accommodation, individualized attention, and really just care. And I think it pays off. I think you provide some of those ebbs and flows in their, year, and that's when you make big leaps. When you got 6 or 8 weeks, you're feeling good, you're happy as a person. I think that's where you really jump up performance. So it's an investment by all, and I think it really pays dividends.
We hear this mostly when people are talking about Power 5 college football, Power 6, they call it basketball, but that the athletes now have more of a say in what goes on. But that's really true across the entire spectrum of collegiate sports, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the transfer portal's obviously changed dramatically from when I was in college, and you had to go into your, coach's, office, tell them you want to go, you had to get released, so, the mobility is certainly, up there. But I think also you can't afford to not really get to know the kids, really get to carve out goals, be very careful about what you're asking them to do, what's important, what's not important, and I think one of the unique things we have, here at Furman and also with our sport is we have a lot of different kids at a lot of different levels. Obviously, we have some sexy, I want to go pro, but we also have some kids that take just as seriously. They want to PR in the 800, and it might not even be that fast, or it might be to make the team, might be to score 1 point at the SoCon championships, some point during their career. And I think picking out those effectual goals and that messaging we have is really, really, really important. Not getting ahead of ourselves, but making sure we're finding that perfect, kind of corollary graph between, challenge and care. I think if you do both those things, because I still think kids want to be pushed, they want to be challenged, and they want to know a coach believes in them, but they also want to know, hey, this is doable without, sacrificing my mental health or my grades or my relationships or just having fun in college, et cetera.
I mean, sometimes as a coach, you still have to kick somebody in the butt. There's no question about it. Yeah. But at the same time, again, with everything that is going into the world of collegiate athletics today, with the transfer portal, some kids may not take that. So over the course of your career, have you had to adjust your coaching methods? at all?
Yeah, I think one, I talk too fast, and one, I probably come off a little bit like rougher or more serious than I intend. I can certainly be, as sarcastic as anyone, but yeah, I just think having better communication and just saying, here you go. And I think also being careful to not lump groups together. In our sport, the tendency, I know a lot of other sports, they practice, everybody's doing the same thing. That's just the nature of it. Ours is really just trying to make sure we may have, well, right now, for example, we have two people, Carson Williams and Matt Smith, that are both milers, but how they get there is incredibly different as far as training goes, and we need to kind of crack that code with everybody, who you can talk to, how I talk to different kids. I think it is individualized. Some kids want to be challenged and pushed. Other ones, they don't respond well to that, at all, and I think you can't just blanket and say, you got to fit my needs. I think it's more a coach fitting their needs.
It's interesting because I've been a baseball guy all my life, and I've been fortunate to for God willing, fifth year coming up, do the Greenville Drive, and I get to see how their hitting coaches work with hitters, and the hitting coach knows a certain. Obviously there's certain things about swinging the bat, getting the bat from here to here into the zone. And every hitter has a different way of getting there, and a good hitting coach is not going to change someone's batting style, batting stance, their swing, and their approach until it's proven that doesn't work. It may not be what you do or you have done and what you would like to see done, but until it does not work, you have to let them go on, and as long as they're successful, be successful, right? With some guidance.
Yeah. I think there's basic physiological, facts that you can't work around or whatever. But I also, had a coach once say, like, hey, I think probably our generation is used to, if a coach is getting on you, it's because he really cares and he thinks. Sometimes they're just being clowns, and particularly at the time, you're sitting there going, oh, my God, this guy hates me or whatever. But you find out later on, or you look back and you go, boy, that was my favorite coach. But I just think you got to separate. It's not that I don't like you as a person. I just don't like what you're doing, if you have some amount of criticism at some point. So, it's always a rub. It's always tough, I think. But I also think just communicating. I think sometimes, a coach festering, irritation that they're having with a kid on the team, and then a kid on the team letting things fester in their head and not, addressing it or saying out loud. So those individual meetings that we have, I bet you don't happen at the vast majority of other, you had mentioned Power 5, Power 6, maybe basketball, because there's so many coaches to athletes. I'm sure it does. But, usually huge track teams with 80, 90 people, you don't have time to individually meet with each kid and make sure they're set. But that's one thing that we really try to make sure that we're, really on top of here.
Did you have any idea when you got into this that you were going to have to be an amateur psychologist?
Yeah, because I was probably a head case too when I when I ran. I did like clear things, and I've made some of the kids kind of take on some of the things. I like it if you don't write it down, then it doesn't exist. I think that's something that I've just built up on, and I think the team is starting to get better at that part of stuff. I just think checklists work, and when you write stuff down, so you got to take on the personality of the coach as well as the personality of the athletes and meld them together.
I got you. This is good stuff. Robert Gary with us as we get into wrap up mode here on this week's edition of Inside Furman Athletics. So let's end where we began, and that is what is coming up this weekend. Again, we're doing this on Tuesday the 7th. So on the 10th, Friday, out in Seattle, Washington, the Husky Classic, you're going to have one group of runners there, and another group of runners will be in Lynchburg, Virginia, at Liberty University at the Darius Dixon Memorial.
Yep. Real excited for a great weekend. This is always 2 weeks out from the conference. This is where kids have had a lot of races, and most everyone's running their target event finally, and excited to get after it. SoCon
Championships are where I'm going to be with basketball tomorrow. That's February 25th and 26th, Saturday and Sunday in Lexington, Virginia, and then March 10th and 11th, the Indoor NCAA Championships in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is just a beautiful city.
Yep, excited. A little bit of altitude, but looking forward to it. It's where we were last time when all of our lives got shut down. We were at the NCAA Championships, and that's when COVID hit. So we were out there warming up, and they said the meet's canceled, and everybody came on home, and then we entered COVID time. So.
Yeah, well, hopefully all of that's in our back door, and you can go tackle some unfinished business. How about that?
Yes, sir.
All right, Robert, thank you very much.
Okay.
That is Robert Gary. You can find out more about his program by going to the website, FurmanPaladins.com, and checking out men's and women's track and cross country. We encourage you to do that and keep tap with what is going on with this program as they continue to do just incredible work. We'll be back again next week with another edition of Inside Furman Athletics. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, comments, criticisms, whatever they are, shoot me an email, dan.scott@furman.edu. For Robert Gary and all of us at Furman, I'm Dan Scott, saying God bless you, and so long, everybody.